All right, guys, it is Adam with BlueGamer.net, and here I've got my buddy Dillon Spears, actually Britney Spears' brother.
That's not true at all.
That's incorrect. That's incorrect. So anyway, we're going to talk about BioShock Infinite. I've beaten it. I beat it in like 3 days. It was so fun.
Yeah.
The story's awesome. We're going to talk about the ending specifically. Now, you beat it real quick. How long did it take you?
Probably a good 4 days worth of action.
Yeah.
You know.
You got it done a lot quicker than I thought. So it's an interesting story. Basically, you're this dude that has to go to this island floating in the sky. You have to get this girl, clear your debt. As you go, things unfold.
You think.
Yeah, you find tears in the world. It has music from different time periods. So it's like, what's going on here? So the ending of the game is you're pretty much, I mean, how do you even explain this to someone?
If I were to explain it to someone, I would go from the beginning, which isn't shown to you at the beginning of the game. I would go from the beginning of the actual story.
Yeah.
To where there's this crazy, like racist, overly religious kind of nut that builds this city in the sky. It ends up, it's part of the U.S. It ends up seceding from the Union.
Yeah.
And the technology that allows the city to float was discovered by this scientist that he was funding. He was funding her research. And she also used that same technology to discover that there are actually multiple universes, or like infinite number of universes, parallel universes going on at the same time based on decisions that we make. So if I decided to get up and leave and go get some milk or something right now, because I really like milk, then that would at the same time create a universe where I didn't do that.
So in this world, it's a universe of infinite universes. Like, yeah, so many different.
Right.
And so this scientist, her name is Lutece.
Lutece.
She was able to find a way to communicate.
Right. So
yeah.
She learned how to basically tap into these things, and because of that, this guy who made the city was able to see, not necessarily into the future, but into parallel universes where things were kind of the same. So he was able to kind of prophesy based on
yeah.
So that's how he became kind of a prophet. So people sort of worship him.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's kind of how he gained his following.
Mm-hmm.
And his wife is not able to, or actually he's being exposed to all this stuff, so he becomes sterile.
Yeah.
He's not able to have a child.
Mm-hmm.
So he finds a universe where he actually didn't become this guy.
Right.
Because there was a key decision in his life that led to him becoming this guy. So he found a universe where he made the opposite decision,
mm-hmm.
and he did have a kid.
Yeah.
Because he wasn't sterilized by that in that particular universe, and actually crossed over into that universe, stole the child.
Yeah.
And took it into this universe. Well, in the process, her finger gets cut off, left in one universe. She exists in both universes, so she has crazy power, so they have to lock her in this tower to contain her.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, obviously there's technology and stuff.
Yeah.
Well then, what happens is this scientist and her brother, which we find out is actually just her from a different universe,
right.
kind of feel bad about this. And
they decide they want to right the wrong. They kidnapped Elizabeth in order to have a hair for Comstock, I guess.
Right, exactly. I should
yeah.
Say, yeah.
And
because he knew that the process also ages Comstock, which is the guy's name.
Right. So he looks a lot older.
Yeah.
Because as you go, you find out that the character you play is Comstock.
Right.
Basically, the scientist, Lutece, and her male dimension counterpart,
right.
whatever, decide, okay, we want to right our wrong, and I guess it caused some kind of infinite loop.
Yeah, what they basically were doing was, because they were the only ones that knew the truth, Comstock tried to have them killed,
mm-hmm.
and they exploded their device that allows them to cross into these universes. All that really did was somehow spread them, almost made them omnipotent, where
mm-hmm.
they exist everywhere.
Right.
Okay, so, but they still felt bad about the whole situation of stealing Booker, your
mm-hmm.
character's daughter, and so what they did was they opened up a tear and went and grabbed Booker from a universe where he had
right.
become Comstock, and pulled him over into the universe where Comstock existed.
Right, trying to get, and I guess really the background of the game is they've done this multiple times. They are trying to find a Booker that makes all the right choices. That
to get Elizabeth back, or
yeah, and as you go in the game, you come across this at the beginning in the lighthouse. You see a guy dead in the lighthouse. That was really a guy that was trying to kill you.
Right.
So someone stopped him.
Right, and Booker doesn't remember any of this because he now exists in a universe with himself. With
Right,
another
and you
version
don't
of
even
himself.
realize that in the beginning of this game you are pretty much in a different universe.
Right.
Because the universe Booker exists in, the Booker that you're playing, does not have a city, in the sky. And so now he's in this universe. He's slowly getting back these memories, and as you go in the game, you're just like, what are these memories I'm getting?
What I found interesting was how the game didn't use the kind of lame excuse of, well, he has amnesia or something like that.
Right.
He's lost
Right.
his memory.
That's a very good point. Yeah.
Because instead, what they've done is they've kind of made the rule to where if two versions of yourself exist in one universe, the memories sort of get mixed up, and your mind just desperately tries to fill in the gaps.
Mhm.
So Booker actually thinks he's just going to get this girl to bring her back to clear his old gambling debt, which is actually why he sold her in the first place.
Yeah.
So he's just sort of using things that actually happened and
Right.
things that didn't.
Yeah, and that's very interesting. I mean, that's why at the end, the plot just makes sense. So,
Right.
so as we get to the end of the game, and you find out your Comstock. Okay, so Elizabeth, because she is, there's a few things that happen. Because she's pulled out of this machine that was containing her powers, she was slowly gaining.
You destroy the machine.
Yes, that's right, and she's gaining the ability to then see everything.
Right.
Because
All possible universes.
because when she was first as a baby pulled into the portal, it closed on her finger. So so that's what gives her this power. She's like in multiple universes at once.
Right.
She could see everything. She sees what needs to happen. So you end up. It's pretty interesting how she kind of takes Booker, I guess, on like a little voyage, I guess, for a little bit, just to kind of explain what's going on. You even go to Rapture for a little bit. That was pretty interesting. And then at the end, you go back to where he was baptized 20 years before. And I guess that's the turning point, right? So the baptism, he either accepts it, changes, becomes Comstock, or he chooses not to, goes back home, meets someone, has a child.
And still doesn't live a great life.
Yes, yeah, it still doesn't. So I guess the ending of the game, what resolves it all, is the Elizabeths all appear during his baptism and kill him.
Just hold him under.
Yeah, as he's being baptized, and I guess that kind of rights the wrong. I guess that threw off the universe.
Yeah, by the game's own logic, and I think by that actual theory or whatever you want to call it, it creates a paradox to where Elizabeth would have never existed to drown him in the first place.
Right.
Therefore, it cancels out any universe that creates a paradox, and it just gets rid of all those possibilities, and now you're only left with the Booker who refused.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you'll notice at the end of the credits, it actually spits you back into that room right before you sold her in the first place, which it reveals all of that.
Yeah.
It may all sound really complicated, but when you play through the game, it's actually one of the few time travel multi-universe stories that kind of makes
that actually makes sense. There's no real plot holes. It actually all can make sense even within this sci-fi crazy setting. But yeah, it makes a lot of sense. It's very well done. And was there anything else that was interesting that you wanted to bring up?
I thought it was cool because a lot of people talk about the social commentary in the game, and obviously that's important. I mean, it's 1912 America, so there's a lot of racism and things like that. And obviously that's important. And don't get me wrong, I don't want to underplay that. That being said, I think it's equally, if not more important, that a game was able to present a world and a story in this way.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, there's so many mediums, film, TV, that can do social commentary.
Right.
And do it well.
Yeah,
They can do it fine, but I would argue that you would not be able to tell the story in this way in any other medium other than a video.
Right, and I've brought this up before. I think the social commentary, if you will, is really the backdrop. It's the setting for the story. You're not supposed to focus on that. That is the obvious. That is, that's what this is going on. But it's about the idea of making choices.
Right.
Really, do you really make a choice? In the game, there's instances where you're making a choice, but it doesn't really affect the end game. This is what happens, and it's the science behind it that's interesting.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, that's what I think too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that if you take away all those other things, this story could have only been told so effectively in the context of, I would even say, a first-person video game.
Yeah.
Because from the moment you arrive, or at least with me, from the moment I arrived, I was immediately hooked when I arrived at Columbia.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, what is going on here? Because I'm not big into BioShock really, so I didn't really do a whole lot of research, so I was completely new. But I would say that anybody who tells you that they knew what was going on from the start is a liar.
Oh, yeah, I agree. And
unless you're an actual like quantum physicist.
yeah, I guess, and you're looking at every little thing, because that's one thing I would tell people, and I told Dylan, look at every little thing when you start the game. And anyone that's playing this game for the first time, you're not going to get it, but look at every little thing.
That's the thing. Even if you look at every little thing, you're not going to get it. And that's what's so cool about it. Because I think that it spoils itself multiple times at the beginning, but you're missing key elements that prevent you from understanding it.
Right.
That's one of the quotes in the game is perception without understanding is a dangerous thing.
Yeah.
And it really uses that the entire time against the player.
Right.
Which is really, I think, is just
it's everywhere. It is everywhere in the game. It's amazing that they did that.
Right. It blew my mind at the end. And
so
it all came together. And I think my one complaint would be that it in a 12-hour game, it took the last 10 minutes, which is a lot for a game, just a story. But still, 10 minutes out of 12 hours to explain all of the complexities. It dumped it all on you in that 10 minutes. So I would have liked a little more time for it all to sink in.
It would have been cool if it spurred out a little near getting to the ending of the game.
But that's really a pretty minor complaint for how amazing.
Right, exactly. And so, yeah, that's the end of the game. And then there's hints at DLC. Well, there's supposed to be DLC for sure.
Right.
What is it exactly? We don't know.
Yeah.
Could be more story. And if it is, it's probably not something that is based around the point of this core game. It's probably Songbird. Okay.
I don't know if that's a rumor.
Yeah, because the idea is the guy that created all this technology, he was able to look into a tear and see like a Big Daddy.
Yeah.
And the what are the implant things called from BioShock? The plasmids, and get the idea for the vigors.
Yeah.
That would be interesting.
Yeah, because he actually in that box phone talks about observing this physicist.
Yeah.
And so we're thinking I don't remember the physicist's name from the first BioShock, but they're thinking it's that person.
Yeah, it's interesting stuff, but a great game, worth playing even by spoiling the ending. There's so much in the world that you're going to want to see, that you're going to want to experience yourself. So yes, thanks for tuning in. And if you want, you can check out Dillon Spears if you go to www.thisisjamboree.com. You can check out his album, So Much, that's going to be coming out, and I'll link that into the description. And what kind of music did you say it was? It was a mix of Avril Lavigne and
featuring Chad Kroeger.
Yeah.
With a guitar solo by Bill Paxton.
Wow. Yeah, that's probably why I won't buy. No. It's how would you really describe it?
It's just kind of indie rock doesn't really mean anything anymore, but it's just kind of like there's a lot of like old like late Beatles stuff thrown into sort of some more traditional like kind of folk pop stuff. Yeah.
Well, cool. Yeah, check it out. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Another week in gaming, BlueGamer.net. I'm Adam Blue, like always. I'm always Adam Blue, which is pretty nice. Anyway, pretty interesting news. Capcom had canceled a Mega Man first-person shooter game. It was kind of leaked out that, and the latest is that it's not always online, and that in fact it has built-in 360 BC, backwards compatibility. This being from some AMD and IBM engineers Microsoft hired that's built basically a little 360 that will go inside, and the Durango will actually use the 360 horsepower when it's not doing BC to